You should have an oath of office, that way you don't have to remember. Do they have one?
Hang on a second.
Whoa. Thank you.
Y'all were supposed to have that memorized.
Yes.
Give us a minute.
Okay. So I'll read a bit, if you'll raise your right hand and then repeat after me, just all together, okay? I solemnly swear or affirm
I, Carolyn Hoover,
Swear.
do
solemnly
swear or affirm that
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma,
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma,
that I will not knowingly receive, directly or indirectly, any money or other valuable thing,
and that I will not knowingly receive directly or indirectly any money or other valuable thing
for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty pertaining to my office,
for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty pertaining to my office,
other than the compensation allowed by law.
other than the compensation allowed by law.
I further swear or affirm that I will faithfully discharge my duties as Commissioner to the best of my ability.
I further swear or affirm that I will faithfully discharge my duties as Commissioner of Public Utilities to the best of my ability.
All right, very good. Welcome.
And then
Glad to
we
have you
sign.
guys.
We can
Yes,
do
you
that.
can do that after.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Call this meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Hammond,
Present.
Huckabee,
Here.
Hooley,
Here.
Golden.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. If you guys will stand and pray and salute the flag with me. Lord, we thank you for this city that you have blessed us with, and we ask that you guide our decisions tonight to operate in a way that brings you glory and honor. I ask for wisdom for all of us. I ask for provision for our city, and I just ask for a blessing upon the new commissioners, that you bless their lives for their time that they commit to this, and bless our employees as well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be removed from the consent agenda? Or a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
I'll second it.
vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Hooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right. Okay, at this time, we'll open it up to remarks or inquiries by the audience not pertaining to any item on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they would like to say? All right, we'll continue on. Item 6, presentation of the fiscal year 2023 and 2024 audit from Jana Walker.
All right. Good evening.
Hi.
We have both years here for 23-24. We've had 23 done for quite a few months, but I kindly ask if we could just present them together since we're moving right on to 24 and getting that done as well. So that is what we did. I'm going to go ahead and concentrate on 24 just being the most recent fiscal year, and there's a highlight comparison between both years that we'll cover, and the opinion letter's the same. So we'll jump to 24. As you can see, they're both pretty thick, so to get through both of them. So we will start with the very first page with my letterhead, page 1. And that's the independent auditor's report. So just telling you exactly what we did. And like I said, for 23, this is going to look exactly the same, just a different letter. Everything's unmodified except for the hospital is technically a discreetly presented component unit. That's not included with that. And that's why you see that aggregate discreetly presented component unit. That's what that is. That's not included here because we didn't have audited financials to also include that in the report. But everything else, we have an unmodified opinion. So And that's what you want to get. You want an unmodified opinion. We didn't need to bring your attention to anything else. That's what those next couple paragraphs just explain, is the fact that we didn't include the city hospital in this report. On page 2, it continues on explaining some of those, the component unit, then you're responsible as management for these financial statements, my responsibilities as the auditor. And then on page 3, some additional reports that we'll touch on and that I will point out as well, that is also included in this whole financial statement audit. And we'll get to some of those as we work through this. But on page 4, that is the highlight, kind of the summary. And like I said, this really compares this year compared to last year. So we're going to cover 23 and 24 numbers kind of in this section. That gives a really good, some tables and those type of things that go over both years' numbers. But the snapshot, the financial summary, starts right there with those bullet points in the middle of the page. And so looking at your net position for the city at this point of time, 9.1 million. So a large portion of that, 4.1, is unrestricted, which is great to have that much as unrestricted to be able to do what you need to continue to carry on city business. And this was an increase from the prior year. So, you know, you ask yourself, what trend are we on? Are we getting better or worse as far as our bottom line goes? And so we had an increase, which is always great to see. Of that net position, 4.4 is invested in capital assets, which is pretty typical with city. You have a lot of infrastructure, a lot of fixed assets. The restricted portion, 572,000, and then the unrestricted portion is that 4.1 that we talked about. Total liabilities for the city, 1.6, so that was a 9% decrease over the prior year number, which just means you're paying off, getting some of that debt amortized down, which is always great. So you're not highly leveraged in that area as far as having a huge amount of debt, not being able to service that. And so all in all, the governmental funds had a fund balance of 3.3. And so that, and we'll go through some of those changes on this very next page. The next couple pages just really give you an overview and good definitions, and so especially new commissioners coming in, those are a great section to get an idea of, hey, here's the whole picture of what these financial statements are for the city, and kind of gives you some good context. I won't necessarily read those, but the thing with financial statements and the governmental financial statements, they present a lot of the same information about 3 or 4 different ways so that a lot of different users can get what they need out of it. And so those next couple paragraphs really just explain, hey, here's what governmental financial statements are, because they are very different from anything else that you look at. If you're used to looking at business financial statements or something like that, governmental is kind of its own special little thing. And so those are a really good reference point as far as what are governmental financial statements and how are they working together. On page 6, though, in the middle of the page, this is our first table in comparison that you can see 24 with 23. We talked about some of those highlights on that very first page that we went over, but here's a really good table where you can see those comparisons split out between your governmental activities and your business type activities, and that net position that ties out at the bottom in total between those two of that 9.4 that we talked about earlier, or the 9.1, sorry. And so overall, we were pretty consistent from one year to the next. On page 7, that's how you got there during the year. And so once again, split out between those governmental activities and those big business type activities. And so there were some changes in there, but everything's consistent, especially when you get grant revenues that can go up one year and not so much another year, especially when we had ARPA funds and those type of things, thinking back to 2023 when a lot of those COVID funds were still available and being expended. On page 8, that just gives you an idea of what the kind of the pieces of pie as far as your revenues were consisted of. And so for, taxes still your largest part. And like I said, when grants, I think in 23, a little bit more of those grants coming in, why that general government piece looks a little bit bigger. And so that's expected to fluctuate from one year to the next, but still as expected on your governmental side, most of that's consisting of your total tax revenues that you're coming in. On page 9, same thing, nothing looks out of the ordinary with what we see on cities as far as how that governmental expenditures in those categories are being expended. That's pretty typical with what we see across the board. And then at the bottom on page 9, that's your business type activities. What we always just want to remind everyone here, we want to see those revenues supporting those expenses. It takes a lot to provide the services, so in relation to your fees, your charges, and those type of things, rates, keeping in line where you're doing that a little bit each year is usually a lot easier than putting it off, and doing it all at once is sometimes hard. As costs continue to rise, that continues to, nobody's exempt from a lot of the rising costs that it just takes to provide the services that you do of a city. So our reminder there is just always make sure that we get those self-covering and stay on top of that as you continue to go and those costs continue to rise, because more often than not, it never gets cheaper to provide a service, and probably won't. On page 10, this kind of switched focus to your long-term focus as far as your capital assets goes and your long-term debt. So the capital assets that you have between both of your activities, and then the claim on those assets, which a large portion of your liability is the pension liability that we have to disclose, we have to put in there. That's based on actuarial assumptions. It's not necessarily something that's due today or anything, but they just want that information there as if it were, and disclosed there. So as far as your actual debt goes, I mean, you're almost paid off on everything that you have. And by 2025, I'm sure at this point you probably are, because meter deposit liabilities, those are in and outs with depending on citizens. And then pension liability, like I said, that's not something that's due today or you're necessarily paying off, but keeps adjusting, and we have to disclose it with this. So not highly leveraged at all. On page 12, that's where the actual financial statement starts. So this is your whole big picture of governmental business type activities. All ties back to those numbers and charts we kind of touched on, but this is your broken down into each of the line items where you can see your cash position at the end of the year between both. So you're at about 3.2 million in the unrestricted cash, a little bit more as far as the cash and cash equivalents that were restricted as well. Your unrestricted investments, 1.1. So you have a good liquid position, and like I said, not a big claim on those assets, with getting most of your stuff pretty much paid off for the most part. And that reconciles right down to that net position number, 9.1 million, that we talked about earlier as well, into those categories. On page 13, that just expands that other table that we talked about. As far as your statement of activities, the ins and outs for the years, you can see some of those gross numbers, like your business type activities and what those departments cleared for each of the electric, water, sewer, sanitation down there at the bottom. And on page 14, it continues with that, where you can see your sales tax revenue, 587,000, followed by your use tax, 135,000. And so that was still a lot of positive recoveries that we had after COVID, and seeing a lot of the sales tax decline from one year to the next. And so starting, especially use tax, kind of going up and down as well. And so it was a slight decrease from the last year, but still holding steady, and not quite the drop that you probably saw about 4 or 5 years ago, and getting back to some normal activity as far as your tax collections go. On page 15, that shifts to just the governmental funds. So like I said earlier, it presents information a lot of the same ways about 5 different times. So you can drill down into your general funds, and then I'll also point out your non-major funds will also show this information. We have a combining schedule that shows all the funds towards the end of the report. But it drills down a little bit further and focuses just on current items, reconciles those long-term capital assets at the bottom of that, but all ties right back to those first 2 financial statements that we looked at. On page 16, that's the ins and outs, your revenues and expenditures between those funds, just on the governmental side. And once again, reconciles to those first financial statements. But if we go to page 18, and that printed sideways for you, the proprietary funds, it switches to the MUA and splits that out. But once again, all of those totals tied right back to the beginning. But this drills down even further as far as your cash investments, that you can see what is in each individual fund that ties to your overall business type activities and your overall governmental activities. Page 19 is the revenues and expenses for each of those funds. And then on page 20, that's going to be the first financial statement that wasn't with the others, just required with your proprietary funds, that you can see your cash flows. So that takes out all those non-cash expenses and what cash went in, what cash went out. We always like to just make sure that those net cash provided by the operating activities not only cover those activities, but also have enough there to reinvest back into your invested your capital assets, and also paying on that debt, where you can see the principal paid on your capital debt, $70,000. And like I said, you about had it paid off, so at this point you probably are paid off in 2025. And then your investment income and reinvestments that go back in there. On page 21, just one more fiduciary statement that we have in there, but page 22, that starts the notes to the financial statements. So if there's any questions, you could probably find it here as far as the context of what all funds that you do have and how these financial statements were prepared. These just give you a lot more information and explanation for each of those line items. Page 23, that was at the very top, that's the reference to the Mangum City Hospital Authority that is exempt from these. So we just have that disclosure there, letting you know that's excluded from this reporting. And then it gets into a lot of the other basic financial statements and how they're prepared. A couple other notes, I won't go necessarily page by page on these, but on page, we can flip forward to page 27. That's a good disclosure as far as just what the capital assets, a little bit more information on page 27 and 28 as far as your capital assets ins and outs, and then that only note payable that did mature in November 24, and so that lets you know a little bit more information about what was paid off during the year and how that was retired off this year. And then on page 29, that starts the pension and post-employment plan, so just gives a lot more information as far as what that pension liability is and what plans that you participate as a city, and provides some context on that net pension asset and liability that we touched on earlier. So those are some of the highlights of the notes that might be of interest. And then page 37 starts some additional schedules. And so my reminder, budget's coming up, make sure we get those approved in so that we can continue to have no budgetary compliance issues as far as that goes. Because any revisions that need to be made for FY25 and then FY26, that's accepted. Just make it easy and make sure we're in compliance there. I always remind everyone as we go into another fiscal year, but we didn't have any findings as far as this year goes. That's where that schedule shows for the general fund. The next several pages get into some more required supplementary information with your net pension. But if you flip to page 41, that is the non-major governmental funds. So this starts your combining financial statements. So once again, just provides a lot more detail that ties to those columns that we saw in the basic financial statements, so that you can drill down even further into each one of your individual funds and where those balances came from. First, starting with your balance sheet and then going on to your statement of revenues and expenditures, where you can see the ins and outs of each one of those individual funds. And then it goes on page 43, switches to your general fund, because the general fund itself has several different ones that are combined into that. So provides you a little bit more detail on where that money is held into each of those designated or restricted or committed balances, and continues on page 44. The same thing on page 45, what the MUA is consisted of, breaks that down even further between MUNA, meter deposit, and some of those other improvement accounts that you have. That all ties right back to that very beginning, but just provides you a little ability to drill down a little bit further in those individual funds. Page 47, that's my next letterhead report, and that's what really kind of rounds out the whole report that we will talk about, that's required with government auditing standards. So two things that we just wanted to make note of. There were so many changes that you guys had the last several years, whenever you have had a lot of shifts. And so the first finding that we just want to touch on, and I remind a lot of the cities, especially the smaller cities, with segregation of duties, and I know it's been more difficult for you guys with having so many changes in and out, but just reminding the importance of getting people filled in those positions and what their duties are, and make sure proper training so that they can complete the duties, so you can continue to have that segregation, that you don't get caught with one person wearing 10 different hats or something of that sort. And I know sometimes emergencies happen, things happen, especially in small towns, and you don't always have those resources, but to the extent possible, trying to maintain the segregations the best you can, because then ultimately it comes back to you guys as the overseers of everyone, the overseers of governments, with that extra layer of responsibility to just make sure the oversight is happening and we don't have too much just dependent on the one person to get everything done, and then also coming to you to kind of have that oversight. And then the second one's just compliance, as far as we're getting caught up. You're officially caught up on your audits. So, and then we'll be on to fiscal year FY25 as well. And so my plan would hopefully be to get work papers in and those things done, and get everybody back on track where we can get that to the state. Now that you don't have, I think you had ORWB at one point, loan, and they actually wanted, if you get one of those again, they actually want it 5 months after year end, which is a month ahead of the state. So I don't know why they don't make that the same, but if you don't have that, it's just the 6 months with the state that they'd like to have it, or they start holding your gas tax, but that's about the only penalty. But all in all, we worked great to get exactly what I needed as far as any requests that I had. We were able to get our hands on it, and so that helped work through a lot of the issues of just changeover and getting it in place. So that was great to work with you and get through a lot of those things that just took some time to get worked through. But are there any questions?
I don't have any.
If you have some later, I mean, Irma knows how to get a hold of me, so.
Thank you so much for catching us up, and I know it was a lot.
But we got it done.
Yeah.
Yes, we got it done. We worked through it. And like I said, FY25 rolling forward, but as of now, you're good to go, all in compliance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
We're going to need a motion to accept that.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion to accept 23 and 24 audits?
I'll make a motion to accept the 23-24 audits.
Okay, a second.
I'll second.
Vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Cooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Irma, for all that you've done to make that happen, and Steve and everybody else involved. I know that has been heavy,
Yes, I'm glad it's done.
for sure. All right, moving on to item 7, hospital report by Administrator Kelly Martinez. Kelly?
We're just gonna start doing a quarterly update for the commissioners. We do have our board meeting every month, but just so y'all know what's going on also. Our average ER volume for the first quarter was 422 patients. That's an average of 141 patients per month. We did have 51 admissions for that same quarter for acute patients into our facility, and then 40 admits for the swing bed program, compared to 38 for the same quarter in 2024. So we are up a little bit. Our average daily census year-to-date is 10.13 for the quarter. That is a little bit lower than what we like. We like to be right at 12 to 13. I will tell you this month we are way over that currently. Our clinic visits at the RHC at Mangum Clinic is 572 total visits for the quarter, and that's up from 501 in 2024. So we're up 71 visits from that. We do have 2 current house supervisor positions open for the night shift, 1 CNA position open, a dietary staff member, and a PRN clinic LPN position. We have currently started our Strong Minds program last month. That is for emotional and mental health support for caregivers or patients over the age of 55 with Medicare. It's an outpatient program. They stay at the facility for right from 10 o'clock till about 1:30. They do group sessions and individual sessions with the psychiatrist also. Just, anybody that has a new medication, a new diagnosis, a terminal diagnosis, or just at home needing some socialization, we are prepared to do that with them. So if you want to break down by month on the swing beds, I can do that. January, we did 20, 11. For February, March was 9. So our big month was, of course, January. I will tell you our April will be quite a bit higher than that. Other than that, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Kelly. All right, item 8, financial report for March 2025 by the city manager. Irma?
I have a financial report that I got for everybody that I worked very hard on.
It looks
Got
good.
graphs and everything, so while you guys look at that, I'm gonna go over the numbers. So for our general fund, for the month of March, in our revenue, we made $195,168. And, compared to last month, that was a decrease of 9%. The expenses were for the month of March, $171,258. And that was also increased from the prior month, February. So February surplus was $46,157, and March was $23,809. There was a decrease in our surplus for the government of $22,348. The breakdown for those revenues was our sales tax was $44,904, use tax $9,650, beverage tax $6,469. Franchise fees was $3,347, and our fines were $2,580, and other revenue was $1,157. On our MUA side, we have the revenue for the month of March, $386,674, increasing of 0.05%, increasing $189 from March to February. The expenses for March were $366,591, and that was a 4% decrease from February. So that left us with a net increase in surplus of $16,704. The breakdown for that, water revenue was $56,000. Our water rehab fee was $3,784. Our electric revenue was $194,000. Wind power, $31,652. Sanitation revenue was $41,639. And our recycle revenue was $552. You'll see the comparison from month to month that I gave you all, and also from year to date in invoice breakdowns. And our year to date, we had March in the government, like I said, we had 23,000 surplus, and for MUA, the 20,000. But you guys will see like the breakdown from the year to date, 2025 to 2024, and those also. Overall, we're staying stable on both sides. I don't see any problems, or I did tell all of my crew, we will not be spending unless it's an emergency until the beginning of the fiscal year. So no more purchases unless it's an emergency. We've got our pool is gonna open, and so we're trying to get that ready. The guys are working really hard, we're trying to get that ready for us. Of course, everybody knows about the hail damage, so that slowed us all down. We have our insurance adjuster will be out next week, and go from there, I guess, and see what it's gonna do to us. So, other than that, I don't have anything else besides we're staying stable. And compared to last year, we've increased in revenue and we've decreased in expenses, so that's really good for us.
For sure. All right, anyone have any questions? All right, thank you, Irma. Item 9, police report by the chief of police.
Good evening. We'll start off with the amount of calls that we had. We had approximately 452 calls for service. Some of those calls were alarm calls, 7 BOLOs, 1 breaking and entering, yes, a cattle call in town, 4 disturbances, 4 EMS, 1 extra patrol, 17 follow-ups, 198 requests for information, 2 public intoxic, 1 mental case, 5 open doors, a reckless driver, 8 requests to speak to officers, 2 stolen property, 7 suspicious individuals, 6 suspicious vehicles, 1 threat of bodily harm, some trespassing, and 8 welfare checks. From all of that, we had 16 reports initiated. Out of those 16 reports that were initiated, charges were filed on 2, 6 were arrested. And that's where we're at. 1 accident. Y'all have any questions?
I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, fire report by the fire chief.
We had a total of 28 calls for April. 3 were gas leaks or the smell of natural gas, 9 lift assists, 2 smells of smoke or something burning, 8 helicopter standbys, power lines down. We had 1 is what we got on there. I think there was actually more. 1 grass fire, 1 vehicle fire, 1 fire alarm, 1 lost child, and 1 motor vehicle accident.
Thank you. All right, 11, code enforcement report by the code enforcement officer.
We do not have our code enforcement here today, so, did you look at any of the reports of what he's done? So, we're just gonna leave that one off.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 12. 12, discussion of possible action with regard to accepting the best and most reasonable bid for the repair and replacement of the Mangum Regional Medical Center's roof.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Josh Shaneborn with ARC Architecture, and I have the bid results. Corey, you want to come up? Yeah. Okay, everybody ready?
Yeah, well, you might hand that out, that kind of stuff.
We have the bid results from the bid
Thank
opening
you.
that was performed at the end of last week for the re-roof project for Mangum Regional Hospital. We had, over the course of bidding, We had 9 known plan holders. We returned or received 3 bids at the bid opening. During the course of the bidding, we did add, we had 2 addenda. The first addenda added a TPO roof as a part of the scope of the project. The existing roof is a modified bitumen. It's a tar-based roof. New one, or the alternate bid, TPO, would be a plastic roof. It has a little more longevity than the existing roof. We added that as a possible alternative to coming back with a new modified bitumen roof because it is just a better product. But we had to bid out to the modified bid so that way it complied with the insurance requirements. We were in contact with the insurance representative prior to adding the TPO as an alternate bid. And so the base bid is the modified bitumen. The alternate bid is for the TPO roof for perspective. And then the unit price column that you see there, that's for metal decking. We did a unit price per roof square, which roof square is approximately 100 square feet. That's so that way once the existing roof gets torn up, if there's any metal deck that needs to be repaired, which we suspect that there will be because of the extensive leaking on the building, the city and the hospital have a unit price bid in to cover any amounts that may, that we may find once the roof is torn out and we know it's there. So that number's locked in. For the 3 bidders, we had Heritage Hill Roofing, Kuntz Roofing, and Next Level Roofing. You can see the apparent high bid and low bid on base bid, but I will read these aloud. Heritage Hill Roofing, for the base bid, we had $715,000. Kuntz Roofing, for base bid, we had $622,900, and Next Level Roofing, we had $643,900. And again, that was for the modified bitumen roof. For the alternate bid for the TPO roof, Heritage Hills was $535,000. Kuntz Roofing was $562,750, and Next Level Roofing was $605,900. With the unit prices, Heritage Hills was $1,500 per roof square. Kuntz Roofing was $1,000 per roof square. And Next Level Roofing, that actually equates to $12,000 per roof square. But the $12 per square foot is how they had entered it into the bid. We did contact the bidders and look through the bid documents that they provided. And our recommendation is Kuntz Roofing. It is the low bid on the base bid. However, we are recommending that the city and the hospital go with the TPO roof as the alternate bid. Kuntz Roofing, with the alternate bid, it is not the apparent low. However, the roofing products that Heritage Hills Roofing had included in their bid did not meet the requirements of the bidding documents. So for that reason, we feel that they should be disqualified, and we are recommending Kuntz Roofing for the city and the hospital to be awarded. And if it's a decision that needs to be made today, we do recommend the TPO roofing in terms of actual construction. And the modified bitumen is there for insurance purposes, so that way they can work out the claim.
How does that work out for, what part of that will the city be responsible for? Do we know that yet, or will that be after the insurance?
That's not a question I'm qualified to answer.
Originally, whenever, and Kelly may help, I mean, originally, we wasn't supposed to be coming out of pocket at all for this. We were supposed to, when it was pitched to us, 100% of that was gonna be covered by insurance proceeds.
But it's looking like 5% deductible of our total amount the facility was insured for last year, which we're glad it's last year's, because we had to go up from 3.9 million to 7.9 million this year. So it could possibly be 5% of the $3.9 million is your deductible, is our deductible for the city, or for the hospital.
And so where will that come from out of the city's budget?
It might not, it probably won't come out of the city's budget. Yeah, it shouldn't come out of the city's budget at all.
Okay,
Because my understanding.
Insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's all gonna be, or the hospital's gonna cover.
We gotta have it no matter what.
right.
Yeah, I mean, so
Okay.
my understanding, like, when we started all this process, it wasn't, the only reason y'all are involved, the city's involved in this at all, at this juncture, is because the checks come to the city.
Gotcha.
Because the city's the one that is insurance holder. Because we was doing everything on the hospital side until the checks started coming in, and then we had to deposit in a city account. And so that's more like, okay, the city needs to be the one that authorizes everything and spends the insurance money.
Okay.
So that's kind of why it's here, but it shouldn't actually hit the city budget, it should all be on the hospital side.
Okay.
Right, because we talked about that, Mr. Kendall and I talked about that when we started working on the budget, because I asked if we needed to come up with any money.
Mhm.
But we looked at it, we looked into things then, and it should be all covered.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, I think that bid that they're recommending is actually less than the original quote we
Yeah,
got.
it is.
It's significantly less, and so we was actually approved for a lot more, and, you know, I mean, just doing it this way, we're actually saving money.
Okay.
And I agree with the architect on the, disqualifying that one, because when you're doing bids, you gotta bid apples to apples. You know, same apple, everything, whenever, you know, you call for Red Delicious and they want to substitute, that's not the same one, so
Mhm.
it's gonna throw the bid off, so you really have to make sure it's an apples to apples comparison.
For what it's worth, for that matter, during the course of bidding, we actually did have a substitute request, you know, for a product that was bid. In fact, Kuntz Roofing is actually the bidder that had submitted an alternate product, and we did have an opportunity to review that and approve it during the bid process, and it was published as an addenda. So
Okay.
if there's any argument about liability there, this follows the Title 61 rules. And it's, and with that being said, Heritage Hills Roofing, we've actually had a good experience with them. It's just a matter of the product that they bid this time we're unfamiliar with, and we didn't have a chance to vet it. So with that, we do have to recommend Kuntz Roofing.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
I don't.
So we need a, action to accept the bid from Kuntz. Right? Okay, somebody wanna make that action or motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the bid from Kuntz Roofing for the replacement of the Lincoln Hospital roof.
Okay, second please,
I'll second it.
vote.
Hammond? Yes. Huckabee?
Yes.
Hooley?
Yes.
Golden?
Yes.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. We'll work with with Kelly to get contracts executed and start moving forward.
All right,
Thank you all.
awesome. Okay, moving on to item 13, discussion of possible action regarding renewing the interlocal agreement emergency medical services between the City of Mangum and the Greer County Special Ambulance Service District. So we need to vote on what action we're gonna take on that. Corey, you had said that there might be some concern with some of the commissioners. Is this right, voting
Yes.
on this? Do you wanna explain that?
Yeah, if you're on the 911 board, you can't vote on this board,
Okay,
so you're gonna have to abstain to vote,
okay.
because it's a conflict of interest.
How?
Under Title 11.
They have nothing to do with each other. So that means they can't vote on the police department or
No,
fire
if
department?
they're on the ambulance board, they cannot.
They're not on the ambulance
What's
board.
the board you're on?
911.
It's a separate board.
Okay, so, okay, that's a separate board, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're on a 911 board, there's not a conflict.
Yeah, they're not on that.
Okay, we don't have any ambulance board.
No,
Okay,
I just wanna make sure of that. because-
Yeah, no, those are separate.
Okay.
I
Good.
just wanna make, yeah.
all right, so, we'll let you guys go ahead. Do you have
Well-
something that you needed
I don't really need to add anything
I know
other
that-
than,
I don't mean to cut you off, but again, this has been on, and I've said this again, I mean, we're at the,
Okay,
near the end of this. I mean, because if y'all want to recommend changes, it still has to go before their board to accept those changes. This has been in place on July 1, so I don't know how much more educated
Okay.
people can get on this. I know we've got new board members, but I mean, we've all heard it, so I
Right.
think we just need to decide, do we want to accept the contract as is? Do we want to make changes to the contract? Or do we want to cancel the contract? That's really
Okay.
the three options that we have at this juncture.
Sounds
Because
good.
again, this is something that should have been done back in
Correct.
February.
Yes.
And I mean, it's been on them, and we've had lots of discussion, February, March, and even, I think, in April.
Mhm.
So, I mean, to give
For
their
sure.
board time, we just need to take action, put pun in it and hearing from
okay.
everybody.
So, new commissioners, do you guys have any questions before we take action on this item regarding this issue?
I just want to understand, so it's whether or not we're still going to collect the $12 for them every month? Because I
Yes.
think I had spoken to her and, you know, was a simpleton then. You know, it's a cost incurred to them to have somebody do their billing, you know, collecting the money and stuff like that, which they clearly don't have the funding for or the money for. So I kind of feel like we should still collect it for them, but maybe be a little bit more transparent in, you know, how they get their money, what money they're getting, a timely manner to get their money, et cetera.
I visited with Annie, because I was I've had a couple of citizens ask me, you know, about the ambulance service. I just wanted to, the ambulance service, we do have 2 running ambulances. They have 13 employees. They roughly get from just Mangum, $13,000 a month, about $4,500 from Granite.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and then the ad valorem tax, I spoke to the county clerk, they get about $52,000 a year. Just their payroll is $40,000, of around $40,000.
Roughly, depending on the call volume, but
fluctuate,
yes, ma'am.
a month. So, and of course, they don't get much from Medicare when there runs, and that's fixing to decrease too.
Yeah, because there's a state statute that was passed to decrease that, so we're gonna get hit there as well.
So basically, all small rural ambulance services are getting hit pretty hard. So I feel $12 is pretty cheap, and I just heard on the news today, Snyder is getting bumped $20 for their ambulance service. So, and like I said, hopefully, maybe by next year, they can, I suggested to her even also maybe doing a membership drive, getting some out of county, or out in the county, people that want to join, and maybe by next year, who knows,
Yeah.
maybe we can decrease the membership or the fee, or the meter fee, but I just feel that we all need the ambulance service, so.
Yes, we do.
All right, any other questions regarding the issue?
I don't have any questions. I do wanna ask Mr. Kendall, or whichever way we have to go, that when this got started in 2022, none of us had anything to do really with billing. And after it sparked up attention the last few meetings about the billing, I do wanna just add that we are going to do a thorough whose EMS fee is on and whose is off that should be on, and whose is on that should be off, because we didn't start that when we came in. I believe Mary Jane was here in 2022 when that was in effect. So there is some customers that have that $12 fee on that are not in the city limits. So when we do review that, those numbers are going to change. And that's just something that I want everybody to know we are working on, just because it caused a lot of attention and people started calling us saying, I don't have a $12 fee, turn it on, because we want the EMS, or some saying, I have it on and I don't even live in the city, let's be sure it's off. So nobody feels like we're doing something that we're not supposed to. Just know we will, and I did say we would ask the attorney or a commissioner to attend while we do, review all of those costs. The time frame, I'm hoping maybe in the next 6 months, but it could be next year, I don't know, it's whenever we have time to sit down and look at everything.
I know I've been talking with Sarah, and she's been trying to look stuff up, because we want to make sure it's done right as well. Because I'm wanting to make sure citizens aren't being charged when they're not supposed to be, or making sure it's fair. So she's been very helpful. When that does happen, do y'all mind just letting us know when you get some information?
100%.
Okay. Awesome.
One-on-one. Sarah, I actually, when we talked about that the other day, Sarah said that she could go down there again, or you could come down here, so whenever, I'm not saying that it's gonna be next month.
No, we understand that. That's not realistic. I understand. She's been really great at communicating, so we're good.
And I do wanna say, it's not just EMS, it's trash, it's making sure that the customers have one trash, and they have one trash outside, public part outside, or if they've got two, you're charging everybody accordingly.
Just due diligence.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
All right, so if we don't have any further questions, can we get a motion on this item?
I'll make the motion
Okay.
for the EMS.
Are you making the
I'm sorry.
motion, are you making the motion to approve it as it currently exists, without any changes? That's what.
Well, since I don't know what the changes are, since I'm new, this is the first time I've known anything about it, but
Right now, there
yes.
hasn't been any
this-
changes proposed.
Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, for me.
Yeah.
But yes, as it is.
Okay.
Okay, can we get a second?
I'll second.
Vote, please.
Hammond, Yes. Huckabee,
Yes.
Hooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right. Thank you,
All right,
guys.
Thank y'all.
We're gonna move on to item 14, discussion and possible action to allow the burning of the limb pile at the old city landfill.
Okay, so a couple of meetings ago, we brought up about what we need to get done at the, city landfill, and it was tabled back then. I believe we asked, if you guys wanted to go out and look at it and see what we've got going on. We've got DEQ, that's, what are we going to do? The guys have mixed feelings of what we need to do out there, but something needs to be done, and we've got to get it figured out. Whichever route we take, it needs to be decided on what we're gonna do out there. So we don't have DEQ all over us, because we haven't done anything with it since the.
They will be able to go out there and see it.
Yes, with the, it's an issue, and we said that some months ago, that we have to get something done.
We'll burn it tomorrow.
I don't know what we're gonna get done, but.
If we burn it, get all the firefighters in the county there.
Tomorrow there's no high winds, it's not 118 degrees, and we're not in a
We have
burn ban
lots
like
of
last.
water.
I will say that you're not gonna find a better time of year to do it. I mean, everything's green, everything's wet.
And it's supposed to bring more rain here within the next couple of
Okay.
days.
Okay.
And we have checked into burying it, and it's gonna cost up to 30 grand to bury it. There's a huge pile out there.
So is there what is against burning it right now, aside from the previous, what we've had in the past, which,
I think that's it. I think it's just the PTSD from last time.
Brian?
And I said to my guys, I trust their decisions on what we should do out there, because we've talked about it, in our offices, but I said the same thing, it's the PTSD, we need to have it with the board and make sure that the board is okay with us moving forward, because like I said, I trust each and every one of them. I believe they've talked with the fire department and they have a plan, but I'm not okay with it because of that, unless we are all on the same page and our attorney is here to say that we can move forward.
okay,
Something needs to be done.
And Chris, you're in favor of burning it?
Somewhat. It's something, yeah. There's one section of it out there that really scares me, because I'm afraid it's gonna smolder. But most of it, I think, will burn. I'm okay with that, as long as we got plenty of people around.
Brian, what's your opinion as the fire chief?
My recommendation is to burn it. It's
Okay.
it's an issue that's not fixing itself. We've just gotta get it done.
No, we're gonna have to keep the comments, like, we have to be able to just discuss between. We'll open it up for, discussion if we need to. Is there any other,
I don't have any, like I said, I trust, their plan, I've heard them talk about it, and, the fire department and Steve and Chris and Gordon, they've all, talked about what the plan out there to make sure that everybody's taking care of each other and we don't have an issue like before. And I like that everybody's saying, they would help us, and so that's good to know.
Good.
But something has to be done because of the DEQ, so.
commissioners, do you have any questions regarding the issue?
Yeah, with the county, like, will they grade around and make sure, for like the pile you said would smolder? And
Oh, it's just one spot. I think 95% of it's no problem. And just that one spot we get burned, we can probably bury that one little area. I think we'll be all right. We've dug test holes out there beside it to make sure that you can dig and it's not trash you're digging into.
We definitely need to make sure this time around that while the city employees are out there and the fire department is out there, we have to keep the public away until it is okay to reopen back up and go back and take limbs or whatever they were taking before.
So does that include like probably a new lock with only so many
I believe
keys,
they've already
or?
done
We may have to
the
change some rules on that,
Mhm.
what we've done in the past.
Mhm.
Most of what we take out there is ours, but we had some contractors.
Okay,
Sometimes some of it was from outside the city limits.
right,
We don't want that.
yeah,
And they may have to pay so much, maybe monthly or whatever.
Right.
Something.
that's a good point.
But until they've done the all clear,
Yeah.
we have to keep the public, the contractors out of there until everything.
Oh,
is-
yeah, we need to take care of it before we do anything else out there.
All right. Do we have a motion on item 14?
I'll make a motion to allow the burning of the limbs.
Second?
I'll second.
Vote?
Hammond,
yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Cooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right. Item 15, discussion of possible action regarding renewing the service agreement with QT Pod for the airport fuel terminal software.
This is just a renewal contract that takes care of our card out at the airport for them to fuel up. And there's been no changes to it, so that's just that renewal.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to renew the service agreement.
Second?
I'll second.
Vote?
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Cooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right. Item 16, discussion of possible action to accept claim loss check or FY 25 from OMAG for property damage at the Welcome Center in the amount of $94,138.41.
Well, the Welcome Center flooded a couple of months ago, and
Been flooding ever since.
it's been flooding ever since. It's actually way, way worse. It's fallen in the front now. It's in very, very terrible condition. We received the $94,000 that we got from the insurance claim. They no longer can do anything to help us. That's it. This money is, it's it. They're not going to help. We have to figure out what we're going to do. It's actually dangerous at this point. So we have to figure out now what we're going to do with that building.
Okay.
Right now, you guys just accept a check. and we
Okay.
start with the next item.
Yes.
Okay, so for item 16, we just need a motion at this point to accept the check from the insurance. Is
I make that motion to accept the check from the insurance,
Okay.
please.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Pooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
okay. Item 17, discussion of possible action regarding the Welcome Center property damage to repair or demolish.
I apologize, Mr. Kendall, I was ahead of myself here. So now we need to figure out what we're gonna do with the Welcome Center.
Has anybody looked at it to see how much it would cost to repair it?
If you've seen the building, there's no.
I was in the building, and I'm the one that heard the rain.
No, so can I
Since,
speak on it real
yeah.
quick for this?
Well, but I mean, that was back
So the
some
first
time.
one you saw
Yes.
when you guys had your alumni meeting, and that was the back half, the ceiling had collapsed in
came-
and flooded the
yeah.
front. So the storm on Saturday over the Rattlesnake Derby,
Yes.
that collapsed the second-story roof, which then collapsed the second-story floor, which collapsed the front half ceiling. So that had standing water, probably almost 2 feet high, in all the ceilings in the 3 offices and where we always had our meetings and stuff, those have completely collapsed.
Okay.
So there, you couldn't see any equipment in there.
everything's
It's
just gone.
completely gone now.
Okay.
The whole front half is now destroyed. Y'all saw the back half, now the front half is gone too. So, I just thought I'd help with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And Chris, you were in there last and said,
I'm in there nearly every day,
and
just to try to keep the water out of their place, cause that Saturday it ran in there.
to the
We
EMS.
figured out where the water's coming, we can actually squeegee some. It pools up in the hall in the second story and runs down in, and that's why it ran into there. The roof's still good there, but it runs, and then it runs back that way and then goes in, and that's what collapsed the ceiling on the south side. So we can kinda keep it out, somewhat, but we're not helping that building, there's not much you can do for it now.
Oh.
It's a shame, but it's just how it is.
I went
If
in
anybody
there.
walks in there, he's seen it today.
I went in today and I was shocked.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's terrible right now.
and I love all our old buildings and I wanna keep them and, because the craftsmanship that went into them all, but, I mean, there was already mold up front going up the
Yeah, there's
wall.
already mold 2 foot up the wall,
Yeah.
18 inches,
It was,
And it's all kinds of black mold, all kinds of mold.
yeah.
everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't just a leak, I'm talking about flooding.
Yeah.
Flooded
Yeah, when
my
you're in there
house.
when it rains, it's like, you're just outside, you're getting just as wet inside that building as you are outside.
My concern would be the EMS building and is the support of the Chamber of Commerce building helping support the wall of the EMS building. I mean, man, you get into a lot of, we need somebody to look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
the first thing you have to determine is the EMS building, is that an interior or exterior wall? If it's an exterior wall, then all you do, because we're doing this in Blair, when, Blair had the fire, is you don't cut it clean, you cut it and leave so much, it's kinda like George did on his building, and that helps brace that side up. So you don't cut it clean with the EMS, so you have to leave just enough to kind of help support everything.
So, do we need to have, maybe, have a contractor come look at it, give us some recommendations and finances that way before we make, do we need to take action on that, a motion to?
Y'all need to decide whether you want them to take the $94,000 and fix the roof and just have a nasty building underneath it, or take the $94,000 and invest in demolishing the building. Because that's really what you have to make the decision on, because it's gonna cost at least 30, 40 grand to demolish the building. That might be high, but that's kind of what Blair's at.
Okay, I'm gonna say this, I'm new, some of y'all don't know me,
No.
but I was born and raised in the museum. Does that tell you how old I am? But anyway, it was a hospital back then. The thing is, if we tear that building down like they have with the car dealerships and the others, our town is falling apart. And our town isn't going to be growing. I'm concerned about that. Could we not just look into building, just the part that they have meetings to not go 2 or 3 stories tall? And just have one for the Chamber of Commerce? She's shaking her head no.
No.
Okay.
I think when they went and made that the Welcome Center, I don't think they ever got the second floor done anyway.
No.
They never did anything.
No.
So there was just the first floor anyway.
Exactly.
So everything above it was already kind of derelict.
And so was the roof.
And so was the roof.
Yes.
And
That was
so-
probably redone when they made the Welcome Center, and probably about 91, and it's never been re-roofed since then. That's where we ended up doing it.
Okay.
And I mean, the roof,
It's got brand new air conditioning, AC on top, like 2 to 3 years old.
so I guess that's the problem is, I don't think it's, the city, I don't think is in a position where it could salvage it.
And I guess that's my question in the wording is, you know, most likely it will be demolished, but could we have a contractor come in and make a recommendation? That way we just know the cost of either way. I mean, you know, if a contractor comes in and says it's impossible, it has to be demolished.
You could do that, but I can tell you when the pipes burst, I think that was a 6-figure job.
Okay.
That was in
Oh,
22. It was like
Yeah.
113,000, something like that.
Okay.
That was just to fix it when the pipes burst, so, and that was an to remove, replace, I think they only did the bottom of the sheet rock.
It went up.
Yeah, so,
45 inches, 3
so we got $94,000 to put on a roof and rebuild it from the inside out. So that's kind of the problem. I mean,
Yeah.
we could get out there and get a price, but, to get a plan together, I mean, you're talking about a couple, you know, you're still gonna have to pay someone to do that, which can come out of that 94,000. So
Gotcha.
you can look at the feasibility of that.
Makes sense.
It's just, you know, that's why it's y'all's decision, not mine.
Are there any pictures for everybody to see what it currently looks like?
Oh.
I have pictures.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful in making a decision.
Now, again, if y'all want to take action to have someone go look at it and give you a quote, I mean, again, that's something you can do, but if you don't want to make a decision now. And I was gonna also say, sometimes, once you get it knocked down,
Yes, I've seen it.
once you get the building knocked down, since those are old bricks, you can usually, there's somebody in
where we
Blair
had
that
our
will come
meetings
and
at.
pick up all those
That's
old
the
bricks.
ceiling in
for free
there.
for it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of brick on there.
So you can get help, and get
Here's another view
some
from
help
that
from
room.
that.
And it's since fallen down more from that. I took.
So that was the Welcome Center. So where have they relocated?
You know, I don't know.
And so the water
But
is
she
all the
just
way
had a
up
baby.
above the doorways now.
I think a lot of it's been, you know, just on the phone and on
And then every
Facebook.
single ceiling.
No, I just hate
in the rooms.
us have our square, they have lights to the ground and that way there, unless we could put a park there or something.
So, the office.
Well, I
That
think
I
I've seen
had
a video,
my
we had a
meeting
video.
center. There's the
on
ceiling.
water
Yeah.
looks like.
And the light fixtures have fallen, and then where we had like the alumni meetings and stuff. So
Yeah,
that's
right there,
that.
yeah.
So this is the front, you guys saw flooding from the back half, but this is now the front half. of the ceiling.
Yeah, that's right.
So where are you taking care of your business now?
I'm removing.
Okay,
So I have a small, I'm sharing EMS. that
Okay.
I need to put my front one in there, and then wherever I can put it, it's still meetings.
okay.
Other than that,
Okay.
like, there's no way like meetings.
No,
it's moved
Right,
back.
right.
Yeah.
So is that something we need to address too, to give you a permanent
The meeting this Thursday, and then we'll go from there.
there?
If I put it on an agenda, it won't be.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, does anybody have questions or want to make a motion regarding the Welcome Center?
I hate to see it demolished, but
too.
I really, after the videos I seen and the pictures, I just don't know that it's gonna be fixable and affordable for the city, so.
Can I make one comment? And I just like what she said. What if originally, we tore it down except for maybe the front, and then in the back of it, you went ahead and did a metal building or something, but you've got your facial front there. I mean, I don't even know if that's possible. I'm just saying, that would be going along with our theme and around the square. Yeah, and they just keep the front of it, and then they build on just new stuff like a.
Wallace is doing that too.
Wallace is in that too.
That
So
keeps
that's a
the
possibility,
nostalgia.
but you're gonna have to tear 99% of it down.
Right.
Do what?
That keeps the nostalgia of the downtown.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So those are possibilities.
Thank you.
Maybe, like the mayor said, we could get maybe a construction person in to kind of give us an idea of what it would cost,
And what could be done.
I mean, seems like the people, they want to try to save it without just the look of it. I mean, the building itself is
Yes.
not savable. But if somebody can look at it and give us maybe some ideas of what can be done to kind of what they were just saying, mentioning. I mean, that's, I think, yeah, that would be.
Do you want to make that motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion to
Maybe
hire
explore
a
some ideas.
contractor or,
Explore some ideas?
yeah, to explore, yeah, more ideas.
I second it.
Okay, vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
yes.
Hooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right. Okay, moving on to item 18, discussion and possible action to approve using the federal funds received from FEMA in the amount of $4874.38 to help repairing the street and culvert on South Louisiana.
A couple of months ago, maybe a year ago, well, like 6 months, I think you talked with Mr. Seymour, and he came down and told us that we had $4,000 left in FEMA money that we didn't get back then. So Steve had came last month, I believe, and talked about that project on Louisiana costing $13,000. So we want to use that 4,000 that we received from FEMA back then to help cover the cost for Louisiana. And what's the other, is it just Louisiana?
Grant.
Grant, yes. Last month, we said, we gave you guys a number, and it was $13,000, so this is just to help us finish paying that and
Okay.
getting it repaired.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the funding from FEMA to help with the repairing of the culvert on South Louisiana.
Second,
I'll second it.
vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Hooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right, item 19, discussion and possible action to approve sending 2 police officers to Ardmore, Oklahoma for the gunfighter level 2 training at a cost of $1,000 plus hotel and food expenses using the administration credit card.
I just want to start off with, this is an opportunity on the 19th and 20th of this month to send these 2 officers to some dynamic training. We have $1,900 left in our training budget. The original cost is $1,300, but they're giving us a discount because I went in 2022, and they liked what we did then, and they figure that they'll get some of the same stuff when they see these officers, number one. Number two, just because of that, they dropped it down to $1,000, the training, instead of $1,300. It's a 3,000 acre facility. The facility allows them to do mount training. For those of you who don't know what mount training is, it's basically a little city that they can live fire all their weapons through as they go through the doors and the windows and stuff like that. It's realistic training that they can do that there. We can't do any training like that here that's live fire or anything like that. So it'll give them the opportunity to work together, to move together in these scenarios, to actually know what it's like to fire a weapon inside of a building, because it's completely different than firing a weapon outside. Completely different. It's actually even disorienting sometimes. But the other thing is just the type of training that they'll receive there. If you look at your packets, they're going to be busy from beginning to the end of the shift. I mean, for those 2 days of training. So funding shouldn't be an issue. We have the money. We have $1,400 in our travel, and we have $1,900 in our training. So I just would like for you all to please approve this so they can get that training.
I make the motion that we give the cost for the 2 police officers for extra training.
All right, a second.
I'll second.
Vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Pooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right, very good. Item 20, discussion of possible action to approve the fire chief applying for 80/20 grant for FY 25-26 through the Oklahoma Forestry Service to purchase fire hoses, fittings, and wrenches.
I've got y'all a list. Excuse me. It kind of gives you an itemized list of what we're looking to purchase on there. Basically, I believe I'm just needing approval to apply for it.
Because it won't be until the next budget, right, you said?
Yes, it should be sometime this fall when we'll actually get the money for that. Total cost and everything is broke down on there. Anybody have any questions about it?
And you're just applying for the grant, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you're asking for, okay.
But the extra, the 20% you do have in your budget to cover?
It will be next fiscal year budget.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So you will need to apply for it now, and if you allow them to do that, then I will budget the 20% of it in our budget.
I'll make the motion to approve the fire chief for applying for the 80/20 grant for the fiscal year 25-26.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Pooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right, item 21, discussion of possible action to approve the fire chief in applying for a grant with the Oklahoma Forestry Service in the amount of $106,000 for the purchase of a pickup, flatbed, and skid.
So on this one, this is 100% covered if we are awarded the grant by forestry. It is for the purchase of a 2025 Chevy 1-ton flatbed that goes on there, and a tank skid is going to be your tank, pump, all your stuff used for firefighting during grass fires. Can't talk. With this all totals up to we came in under the 106,000. We came in at 92,307.35. So just seeking approval to apply for it as well.
I'll make the motion for the fire chief to apply for the grant from the Oklahoma Forestry Service.
I'll second it.
Vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Pooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, staff and board remarks or inquiries by the governing body members, city manager, city attorney, or city employees.
I got something real quick. Since y'all are newly elected officials, you do have to attend what's called the Newly Officials Institute course. You have to do that within 1 year of basically the day. You can go to the OML website, Oklahoma Municipal League website to find out when you want to do it. It's all throughout the state. Unfortunately, we don't have one in our area between now and January 17th. Usually there's one in Lawton, but that's probably going to be next year. But so there's one June 5th in Midwest City, July 17th in Tulsa, October 16th in Woodward, November 13th in McAllister, and January 17th in Stillwater. So it's like a 7-hour all-day deal. You get a nice little handy-dandy handbook. Answers absolutely nothing.
I will email you all the dates. Let me know which one works out for you, and we can book it, and I'll give you the confirmation to get that done.
And we need to do this before the next
Within
year?
1 year, yeah, within 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
1 year today. So like I said, there's sometimes one in Lawton, but I don't know if that's already been passed or not. Usually they don't schedule them until after the April 1st election, so I was actually surprised we didn't have one in our area.
I attended the one in Woodward.
In Woodward?
Mhm.
Okay.
I also want to just let everyone know, one of our employees, three of our employees are going through some personal problems, and I don't want to say out loud because it's not my place to say, but if people can donate, there's something set up for the Green family at Stockman's, I believe, right? They have a. Oh, at
Cattleman's.
Cattleman's. Oh, yeah, sorry, at Cattleman's, and they're selling shirts. So anybody can help out, the community can help out, anybody can help this family. They're going through a lot right now, so. We also have something set up within us employees to try to help them out, so anything helps.
For sure. All right, any new business?
No, not that I know of, unless Steve, Chris, you guys got anything? Gordon?
Well,
Oh.
I don't know if this is time or place, but I'm getting pretty short on hands. And I don't know about how what I'm gonna do other than, well, one of them's leaving because of money, and the other one's some personal problems. So, we're gonna have to get to paying these guys somehow a little better. Of course, they're gonna have to show that they're worth it also, but kinda getting in a bind.
So what he's trying to say is, please apply at the city of Mangum. There is jobs available. The hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on call on the weekends and called out day or night on emergencies, with electric outages. But Monday through Friday is the days.
Can show up for those days.
Show up to work, so please apply.
Don't just show up. Yeah, show up.
Show up.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, the workforce these days is pretty scarce, I guess, as far as what we're used to.
All right. At this time, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
Go ahead.
vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Cooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right, adjourned, and we'll move into the MUA meeting. So let's call this meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Hammond,
Here.
Huckabee,
Here.
Manasco,
Yes.
Cooley,
Here.
Golden.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. The consent agenda, a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
vote.
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
I had it here.
All these papers.
Yes.
Huckabee,
Michelle?
Yes.
Manasco,
Yes.
Cooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right, at this time, we're going to open it up to remarks or inquiries by the audience not pertaining to any item on the agenda. If you have something to say, this is the time to speak. Nope. Okay. Now, we're gonna move on to item 5, discussion and action to approve reimbursement payment via direct deposit made to the city of Mangum by ODOT. We can't shut that, but if you'll just ask them to please be quiet. Thank you.
Or move on.
In the amount of $10,179.50 for the payment of invoice 224016-5 to Myers Engineering for the water line relocation project in the amount of $10,179.50.
So we all know that they deposit this into our account and then we pay out that engineering. So it's no cost to the city, it's just us accepting the payment and reissuing the payment to Myers Engineering.
All right. A motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
Vote?
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Manasco,
Yes.
Hooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
All right, staff and board remarks. Remarks or inquiries by the governing body members, city manager, attorney, or employees.
I guess here's what I should have brought it to, employees on the short. There again, we're still short.
So one more time, please apply at the city of Mangum.
All right.
Free advertisement with Mangum Star right here. We're gonna put it on this front page.
Yes. All right. Anyone else? Any new business? How about a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Vote?
Hammond,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Manasco,
Yes.
Hooley,
Yes.
Golden.
Yes.
Adjourned.
Nobody run off. These signatures.